Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and this is Boo Boo. We call her Boofalo because she's always just rushing her way through life. And she's gonna be just hanging out. She might lay down. She might sit here. She's my old lady of the house. She'll be 10 in January, so getting up there. She got a little gray nose. So anyway, today we are going to be doing my picks for Nora November, which is put on by Storm as Storm reads, Lee at Dark Roots Creations, and Tina at Tina Simeon. I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'll leave all their channels linked down below, of course. And then I'm also going to be going over my choices for Nonfiction November, which is hosted by A Book Olive. Again, that channel will be linked down below. And yeah, let's go ahead and just get right into it. Now, for Nora November, I did do a recommendations video, so if you haven't seen that, I'll leave that link down below. And I kind of did my top 5 for each prompt, basically. I already have a set TBR. I originally wasn't planning on participating in anything. I wanted kind of a lighter end to the year. But Nora Roberts is my favorite author. I have every single one of her books. And so I couldn't not not participate. And so as far as my picks, I tried to keep it as concise as possible. I probably could have gotten it a little less, but one of these is a series and I wanted to read them all together. And I think it might have been one book less if I had gone a different route. So I got 5 books there. And then I picked 2 books for Nonfiction November. I normally read like at least one nonfiction a month. Not always, not every month. And this month I didn't have any nonfiction on my TBR. And so I was like seeing, the Nonfiction November's videos pop up and such. I was like, I really want to participate in that as well. And so I do have 2 books because the whole idea is to read more nonfiction than you normally do. And since I normally have about 1 or none on my TBR, I figured I would go for 2, but one of them is going to be the priority. If I don't get to the other one, I don't get to it. Because there's also like challenge words, and I found a book that fits all 4 challenge words. So I'll definitely leave the announcement video down below if you guys want to participate. There's like Instagram, like it's been going on forever and it's pretty big. This will be my first year participating though. Even though, like I said, I do typically try to read nonfiction. And Nonfiction November is a nice alliteration, so I'm sure if you're not actively participating, some people still do it anyway on their own just because of the alliteration. So let's go ahead and start with Nora November, and we'll go over my picks for that. And so like I said, I try to get books that fit multiple prompts so that way I can keep this shorter. Nora Roberts super easy for me to read. These are all rereads except one of them, and so it'll be really easy to just get through. And so first up we have Midnight Bayou. This was one of my I think all of them were one of my recommendations, maybe not the series, but this is Midnight Bayou, and this fulfills the prompt of movie adaptation, color and title, because I'm using midnight because midnight blue, so I am stretching that a little bit, but that's kind of my thinking on that. And then it does work for the suspense genre. And this one also, I can't remember exactly whether it actually has paranormal characters, but it has kind of paranormal vibes. It's set in Louisiana, so a lot of local legend there. And so this one does not have a synopsis, and I don't fully remember it. I do remember it says a gumbo seasoned with ghosts, love, and murder on the bayou. And so it is a romantic suspense, and I'm pretty sure this guy moves in and he buys this house and he's looking to kind of renovate it, and he dates a bartender who's local. And I think there's murder, and so they're trying to figure out what's going on, and there's kind of suspicion on his property, and like spooky vibes. Like I said, I'm fairly positive there is paranormal in here. If I'm remembering right, like I vaguely remember a scene with a river. It's been years since I read this one, but I remember it being very vibey. And so, yeah, that's my first pick. I definitely, out of all the movie adaptations, there were several I could have gone with, but this is the one that I really wanted to reread. And I remember kind of the spooky, ghosty vibes. And so I thought it would be perfect. So it does work for paranormal characters, but I'm actually using a different book for that prompt. So that is my first pick. Then we have my series. Boo Boo's kind of in the way here. I have a potato and she wants it. She's my big foodie. They're all foodies, but she's very food motivated. So next up, I'm going to be reading The Gallaghers of Ardmore. This is a trilogy. This one is not a trilogy I reach for a whole lot, so I haven't read it a whole lot. I do enjoy it, but it's more straight romance, but with a touch of extra. It kind of uses like local legend and lore. So this one is set in Ireland. This first one will work for first in series. So this is called Jewels of the Sun, and I'll go ahead and read the synopsis for each one of these. So the first one I'm using for first in series and set in Ireland, and this one you have it says, Dear reader, those of you who are familiar with my books know that Ireland is one of my favorite places to visit, in real life and in fiction. It's a country of dramatic cliffs and quiet fields, one of myth and magic and legend. In Jewels of the Sun, I borrowed from some of these myths, created my own legend. It could have happened. I'd like you to meet the Gallaghers of Ardmore, Aidan, Sean, and Darcy, who run the local pub in this pretty seaside village in the county of Waterford. Not far from the village is a cottage, a place of magic where a lonely American woman comes to explore her roots and her heart. She won't be alone in the house, for there is another lonely woman in residence. She just happens to be a ghost. So you have a paranormal character there. With the help of a fairy prince who loved well, if not wise, Aidan Gallagher of Ardmore and Jude Francis Murray from Chicago will find their place and take the first step towards breaking a 100-year spell. I like to take you back to Ireland with me, the doors of Gallagher's pub, where the fire's burning low and the pints are waiting. I have a story to tell you. And so this one, I think when I did my recommendations I said like a god like entity had a curse, and he was kind of meddling in the love lives of these people because he wanted to break their curse and they needed to find love in order for him to break. It's a fairy prince, but I still kind of think of them up there like godlike. so so yeah, that's the first one, and like I said, I'm using this one for Ireland and first in series. The second one in the series I'm just using for category romance. Even though there's a little extra, it doesn't really fit like her romantic suspense, it doesn't really fit like her fantasy. It's more, if anything, like magical realism, or it's more straight romance with a touch of legend and lore to it. And it obviously does have that paranormal and that fairy aspect, but it really kind of wraps up in more of the straight romance, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm using this one for category romance. So in this one, we have Sean, his story. So it says, Those who dream by day bring beauty to the world. The art and music, the stories in the heart. Ireland holds its dreamers dear. Still, along with its poets and artists, the Irish can be a practical lot. In one hand they hold their magic, and in the other the sweat of their labor. In the tears of the moon, I clasp those hands together with the dreamer Sean Gallagher and the clear-minded Brenna O'Toole. Carrick, Prince of Fairies, has his work cut out for him with these two if he's to bring them together and take the next step toward breaking the spell that separates him from his own love and his own destiny. He has a gift for them, but they must accept it and each other with selfless hearts. Pride and ambition must be outweighed by love and generosity. Two people who have known one another all their lives will have to look at each other with different eyes. High above the tidy village of Ardmore, on a windy cliff near the well of an ancient saint, there is magic and music in the air. Have a seat on the bench here and listen for it. So I use this one for category romance just because it's the middle of a series, so the other two kind of cover everything else. And this one, since they've known each other their whole life, I think that really fit the category romance part of the prompt a little bit better than the other two. So I really like that one. And then the last one is Heart of the Sea. And so you can see there is a shoreline back there. So shoreline on cover. And then this one I'm using for the paranormal character prompt, since there is that ghost. And in the synopsis, it mentions that, I mean, I know it mentioned it in the other ones too, but this one just stuck out more. So it says, lore and legend play a vital part in the history of Ireland. Song and story have been written of the fairy rafts and of the good people who live in those silver castles under the green hills. So it is those stories and those songs that make up a charming portion of Irish culture. Trevor McGee's people spring from this, though they traveled across the sea to settle in America and made their fortune. But like many whose roots are in those hills, Trevor is drawn back to the land of his ancestors. He will come to Ardmore to build his dream, a theater to showcase the art of his heritage. To do so, he'll work with the Gallaghers and use their traditional pub in his plans. In Heart of the Sea, he will live in a cottage where a ghost walks and waits for her true love. He will cross wits with a fairy prince who is determined to have his way at last, and he will meet, deal with, and desire the intriguing and frustrating Darcy Gallagher. All her life she's wanted more and made no secret of her hope to find a rich man to give her a lush and exciting life. Now that she's met him, it's a matter of hearts that must be won, his as well as hers. Until they are, the spell that separates lovers holds fast. Take a walk with me in the shadow of an ancient round tower. I'll tell you what happened. So, yeah, works really well. So like I said, that series, that worked well for all those prompts, covering my bases and getting to read the whole series. Like, I really like reading these series or rereading them all together. So that's what I'm doing. And then the last one is the category of JD Robb. And for this one, I'm going with Remember When, which combines her writing style as Nora Roberts with her JD Robb character Eve Dallas. So it's kind of broken into two parts. And this one, like I said, I have one of the in-depth series, but I remember I got that one back when I first started my Nora Roberts journey, and I just didn't really like it. And so I haven't really picked them up since. And I thought this would be a good way to kind of start to delve in, and then I'll probably try to read the one I have. And then if I enjoy it more now that I'm older and an adult, I might, try that series out a little bit more. But I thought this was a good way to kind of dive in there. And so in this one, let's see, you have in part one, Nora Roberts introduces us to Lane Tavish, known to the folks in Angels Gap, Maryland, as the proprietor of Remember When, an antique treasure and gift shop. They have no idea that she used to be Elaine O'Hara, daughter of the notorious conman Big Jack O'Hara, or that she grew up moving from place to place, one step ahead of the law. But Lane's past has just caught up with her. Her long lost uncle has visited her shop, leaving a cryptic warning before dying in the street, run down by a car. Soon afterward, Lane's home is ransacked. Now it's up to her and an enigmatic stranger named Max Gannon to find out who's chasing her and why. The answer lies in a hidden fortune, a fortune that will change Lane's life. And then in part two, J.D. Robb takes us to New York City in 2059 and puts Detective Lieutenant Eve Dallas on the case. The treasure that Lane and Max sought has never been fully recovered, and now someone else is pursuing the missing gems, someone who's willing to kill for them. Sharp-witted and sexy, Eve is used to traveling in the shadowy corners outside the law. In a future where crime meets cutting-edge technology, she will attempt to track down the diamonds once and for all and stop the danger and death that have surrounded them for decades. A thrill ride of a novel that blends present day romance and futuristic suspense. Remember When is a tale of deceit and secrets, of strong women and fascinating men. A brilliant combination of the incomparable talents of the two sides of Nora Roberts. So, yeah, I'm excited. This is the only one I have never read. This is one when I was completing my collection I did not have, probably because of the JD Robb aspect. I never really caught my attention. And so I'm glad to finally get this read, and we'll see how I feel about Eve Dallas. For nonfiction November now, like I said, I have two choices. This first one is the one, if I get to it, great. If not, I'm not going to worry about it. And that's Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs? Big questions from tiny mortals about death. And this is by Caitlin Doughty. I absolutely love Caitlin. I watch her YouTube channel. She's not as active there now. YouTube was causing her some grief. So she's not as active, and then she kind of took a sabbatical as well. But I read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and really, really enjoyed it. And this one just seems like so much fun. It is short and it has like, big pictures and such in it. And so it shouldn't be too hard of a read. And it's just something I really, really want to get to. So it says everyday funeral director Caitlin Doughty receives dozens of questions about death. The best questions come from kids. What would happen to an astronaut's body if he was pushed out of a space shuttle? Do people poop when they die? Can grandma have a Viking funeral? And Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs, Doughty blends her mortician's knowledge of the body and the intriguing history behind common misconceptions about corpses to offer factual, hilarious, and candid answers to 35 distinctive questions posed by her youngest fans. In her inimitable voice, Doughty details lore and science of what happens to and inside our bodies after we die. Why do corpses groan? What causes bodies to turn colors during decomposition? And why do hair and nails appear longer after death? Readers will learn the best soil for mummifying your body, whether you can preserve your best friend's skull as a keepsake, and what happens when you die on a plane. And then it goes on, beautifully illustrated by Diane Ruse. Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs show us that death can inspire science and art? Only by asking questions can we begin to embrace it. So I I've been wanting to read this. I got it last Christmas and I just been wanting to read it. And so I thought, for Nonfiction November, if I can squeeze this in, I'm definitely going to do so. There's that one. And then the main focus for Nonfiction November that I'm adding in is Troublemaker by Leah Remini, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology. I picked this one. I've been wanting to read it because I follow her on TikTok, and a bunch of videos about Scientology and such have been popping up. So I've been actually wanting to read this. I got this from my grandma. And two, it fits the challenge words that it fits every single one of them. So I was able to kind of condense one book to fit all the challenge words to work. So the first one is we have fraud, web, capital, and display. Again, Nonfiction November is put on by a book olive. And so for this one, I use fraud just because twofold, like Scientology definitely puts on her front and she's kind of revealing that facade, so that they are frauds, like are not what they say they are. And two, Scientology is trying to denounce her as a fraud because they don't like what she's saying about them. The second is web, social media and such. I follow her on TikTok, so that kind of works. And it is kind of a tangle web as you kind of go down the Scientology rabbit hole. Capital Scientology, I've watched a lot of her videos, and it talks about, how they make people feel bad if they don't give money, and they're spending all this money to basically stalk Leah and others who have denounced them and such. So there's a lot of capital in Scientology, and plus, with their big money earners and such. So, and then lastly, display. They definitely put their Hollywood members on display. And since it's Surviving Hollywood and Scientology, she was in Hollywood, and so she is on display as an actress as well. So I'm making it work for all four of the challenge words, which I love, and I am excited to read this, especially because those videos have really been popping up for me lately. So that is my other choice. So that adds, five, seven books to my TBR, which I already had 13. Now I do need a mood read for my game. Again, if you haven't seen my November TBR game, I'll leave that link down below. This is one I've been wanting to read, so this could definitely work for my mood read. And so yeah, that would work. And then, like I said, if I don't get to all the Nora Roberts, I'm not too worried about it. My priority there is Remember When, since I haven't actually read that one before. I would really like to read that. And so yeah, even if I just get that one read, that's fine. So I would have 20 books this month. Good months, I actually read about 19 books, so it is doable. It's just a little intimidating as well because I was hoping for a little bit of a lighter month. But a lot of my books over there are shorter, quicker reads, like some YAs and such. I only have a couple like that are thick and are gonna take me a bit to get through. So I do think this is doable, but I originally didn't want to participate in anything for a reason. And so, like I said, I'm going to just prioritize Troublemaker and Remember When, and then the rest. If I get to, great. If I don't, I don't. So, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Please let me know down below if you are participating in either Nonfiction November or Nora November, and what you might be reading for those. If any of these are caught your attention, if you're interested in reading them, if you've ever read them, love to know that as well. I'm gonna leave you here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.